All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford, and what Derrick James had to say about the performance and how he's going to have to improve against Terence Crawford in the fight coming up next. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. We're going to talk about the fight this weekend and the next huge fight coming up in the welterweight division. The one that took place this weekend, Errol Spence Jr., Ugas. The one coming up, hopefully, pray that it's coming up, Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford. Before I get into that, though, if you are a longtime subscriber and supporter to the channel, or a recent one, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Great, your support is greatly appreciated. If you are not a subscriber to the channel, accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can get notified of when we release more videos. All right, so long and short of it is, Derrick James, Errol Spence Jr. know that they are going to have to perform better against Terence Crawford than they performed against Errol Spence, than they performed against Ugas. Make sure I say that right. Errol Spence Jr. is going to have to perform better against Terence Crawford than he did against Ugas if he is going to expect to get that win. That's my interpretation of what I saw in the conversations that took place with Derrick James after the fight this last Saturday. Now, the fight this Saturday, if you're not up to date with it, you should be. But a little background, Errol Spence Jr. just unified the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF welterweight championships by beating Ugas in a very, very exciting fight, a fight that I do believe Errol Spence Jr. Exceeded or met and did exactly what he said he was going to do, put on an exciting fight, an exciting one-sided dominating fight. And he did just that. He, over the course of, I do believe the fight lasted 10 rounds, Errol Spence Jr. was in control of that fight the vast majority of the time. The first couple rounds, I do believe, were some feel-out rounds, or some rounds where Ugas did have some success. Ugas specifically came out in the beginning of the fight and was very good at countering Errol Spence Jr.'s jab. Now, if you're not familiar with how Errol Spence uses his jab, a lot of times he's using it, as a range finder. He's using it to pin the other person's glove up to the top of their head, right? Not always using his lead, not always using his jab as a way to really try to connect with the guy's head, but as a way to rack up points, control distance, right? Pin the guys. A lot of times he'll put his jab out there to pin the guy's glove up against his head. But in the beginning of the fight, Ugas, what he did very, very well was he, out of the orthodox position, he countered that jab very, very, very well. Then Errol Spence Jr. made an adjustment where when Ugas started countering the jab, Errol Spence Jr. started countering the jab and kind of leaning in underneath it and using that counter of his to duck the counter and then allow him to step in closer and then get to the body shot and land uppercuts and land hooks to the body. And this wound up, I do believe, neutralizing Ugas's jab, maybe after round 2. And then after that, once he started kind of abandoning that, Errol Spence Jr. then was able to, dictate his will with a lot of pivoting on the inside, a lot of very good footwork to trap and keep Ugas from moving out to the left, or when he moved out to the right, he had a hook waiting for him, moving out to the right. So I thought just a very, very good, well-rounded fight for Errol Spence Jr. Eventually, all of the punishment that he was taking by landing the body shots, landing hooks to the head, uppercuts to the head, switching up the shots that he was throwing, eventually broke down Ugas. Broke his orbital bone. There was conversations about having broken his rib. I've heard people say that he had broken his rib, that he had broken his nose, right? Just did a whole lot of damage to him in that fight, and eventually the fight gets stopped. Now, after the fight, Derrick James was asked what he thought what he thought of the performance of Errol Spence, and he was like, yeah, he thought it was a really good performance, but he's like, no, there's a lot of stuff that he could have done better. And Errol Spence Jr., said the same thing, and he was like, for example, Errol Spence Jr. said, yeah, I was really kind of anxious in the beginning of the fight. I was overshooting my shots. There were several times you could see, especially one exchange where Errol Spence Jr. really did overextend with a right hook and Yordenis Ugas slipped underneath it, pivoted and had a nice uppercut to the solar plex on Errol Spence Jr. Very, very nice scoring blow, nice scoring move. And I think a lot of that had to do with Errol Spence Jr., in his own words, being a little bit over anxious and really wanting to get out there and get to Yordenis Ugas, because he had been out of the ring so long. So, he was just very, very anxious and really wanting to go at it. Derrick James also himself was giving Errol Spence Jr.'s instructions and telling him, about staying in front of, not making sure he's not standing directly in front of Yordenis Ugas for too long, because there was, extended periods of time in that fight where he was doing that. And, and as a result, he started getting caught, with people were saying he was getting hurt with body shots. I didn't really see him getting hurt with the body shots. However, the body shots up the middle, maybe around 7 and 8, started landing for Yordenis Ugas. Also, when he stood in front of him, Yordenis Ugas was on a couple of occasions, able to shoot that looping right hand, around the back of the guard of Errol Spence Jr., the one that he really used so effectively against Manny Pacquiao. That had some success against Errol Spence Jr. in that fight. So, those guys know that there's a lot of improvement that Errol Spence Jr. needs to make between now and the time that he fights, and the time that he fights Terence Crawford. That's not to say, however, that they don't sound very, very confident going into the Terence Crawford fight. And, specifically what the trainer Derrick James said was like, you're gonna see what he can do against Terence Crawford. Now, now that the afterglow of the fight with Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas is kind of settling down for myself now, because I will admit, man, I'm a fan of Terence Crawford, and I'm a fan of Errol Spence Jr. I live in Texas, so I'm a little bit more partial to Errol Spence Jr. as far as rooting for their camp and wanting those guys to win. As fighters, I think they're both tremendous fighters, right? And it's I wouldn't call it a no-lose situation, but it's just such a tremendous fight. This is a Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns type of situation, man, where, I don't think either one of these guys have ever been in the ring with somebody that is as good as their opponent. For Terence Crawford, for Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford is going to be his best opponent ever. And no matter what Bo Mack says and Terence Crawford in his camp says, they have never been in the ring with anything like Errol Spence Jr. Somebody that's that big, somebody that's that aggressive, and somebody that's that technically sound, and somebody that's that technically savvy. They've not been in the ring with anybody like that either, and both those guys are going to really have to be on their P's and Q's and be at their absolute best, at their best level. I personally favor Errol Spence Jr. in the fight because of the volume, because of his volume punches, and because of his pressure. And if Errol has success in pushing that type of fight where he can consistently get to the body of Terence Crawford and create that type of dogfight, that's just something that really heavily favors Errol Spence. Terence Crawford is going to have to be able to stay on the outside and keep Errol off of him, keep him from being able to fight in that close, tight mid-range where he can have so much volume and at the same time being defensive responsible and really making it hard to really hit him with anything significant. But we'll see, man. I'm super excited about the fact that it seems like this fight is going to get made, at least out of the mouth of Terence Crawford. We'll see what happens over the next couple days. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And also, again, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. And with that, I'm out. Peace.